Good morning. I'm Betsy Foxman, and I'm the director of the Center for Molecular and Clinical Epidemiology of Infectious Diseases, known as MAC-EPID. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to, this is the 38th MAC-EPID Symposium. This one is on, as you know, microbiome connectivity and adaptation to climate change. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about MAC-EPID. MAC-EPID's mission is to provide an intellectual home for students, faculty, and staff that are interested in transmission, pathogenesis, evolution, and ecology of infectious diseases. And to successfully prevent and control infectious diseases requires research at multiple levels, from the micro to the individual to the population level. And although there are researchers specializing in all these areas, many that I'm sure I don't even know, here at Michigan, the levels certainly aren't independent. And what happens at the molecular level affects what happens at the individual level and the population levels, and they all have interactions. And I think studying those edges is the most exciting research, is how the interactions between those levels. So at Michigan, there's just an enormous research enterprise and expertise, which is really relevant to the MAC-EPID mission. And so our goal is to help connect these faculty, student, and staff in these varied fields and different perspectives and foci in research. And to do so, we've had sort of two major activities. The first is training. So for 20 years, first with funding from the NIH and then from Burroughs Wellcome, MAC-EPID's been the home for an interdisciplinary graduate training program. It's a dual mentorship program, and it offers students the opportunity to obtain training in laboratory population and mathematical modeling. And I say opportunity, and we ask them to obtain training in all those areas, which they can apply to their dissertation work. And it's been very gratifying to see how the opportunities to learn out of these different fields changes people's perspectives and opens many new opportunities. And students and faculty in our wider community also participate in pre-symposium activities. We held a journal club prior to this and all symposia where we read the papers that the speakers suggest. And then we have a pre-meeting workshop that was held yesterday where we have opportunities to hear about works in progress and get feedback from each other and from our invited speakers. And the other part of professional relation training, as you'll see, that each speaker today will be introduced by a student. And the second activity is to have this twice-a-year symposia series. And I think about it, since the time we did our first symposia in 2003, life has changed, and there's many, many opportunities to hear just really great talks by notable scientists online. Well, you don't have to go anywhere. You can just search, and you can hear TED Talks, and you can hear recorded lectures and so forth. And there has been talk about, why should you go anywhere? I mean, why should you go to an event like this? And I think because the purpose of a meeting, and especially this one, is not just to hear about science, but have the time to process it and ask questions and then meet collaborators and colleagues. And I just want to make sure that everybody gets that opportunity here. So if you, I think a lot of people do know each other, but I'd like you to take a minute and introduce yourself to someone you don't know. So I've been trying to do that this morning myself. So you may not know anybody, but I don't want anybody to feel like they're alone in there. So I was noticing there's a lot of people who know each other here, which is gratifying too. There you go. I hate to cut it off, actually, but great. I have attended meetings where I know no one, and it's always hard to get that initial conversation going. And if you just meet one person, it makes life so much nicer. So there you go. You'll also notice that we planned the symposium with this idea in mind, and we spent a lot of time thinking about what we could do to make this meeting a meeting where you wouldn't meet people and talk to them. Increasingly over time, meetings I go to, they seem to cram in absolutely as many people in the time as possible. There'll be lightning talks followed by 10-minute talks, or there's 12-minute talks, and there's a 1 minute for discussion or something. And so by the time I hear the talk and think about what I want to ask, it's long gone, right? So what we did was to decided we want to have more time. So you'll notice that the time in between speakers is a lot. And that's not because we want them to talk for an hour and a half, we really don't, but because we want to make sure that following each talk there's enough time for questions and also for networking. There will always be the food and coffee in between. After the second speaker, there's lunch. So I hope you take advantage of that and meet some new people and have that time. And then I just want to take just a couple minutes and talk a little bit about why climate change. I'm sure everyone has seen a graph like this, but I think with the election year and with the COVID pandemic, it's kind of overshadowed how important climate change is. But we know that temperatures have increased rapidly over the last 100 years and associated weather changes, and this affects all life on Earth from the smallest to the largest. And whether or not you believe this is solely due to human activities, we do know there are human activities we can change that will make a difference. But the same problem faces changing climate change as it does for infectious diseases, is that it's not really under each individual country's control about what happens. We really need to have a global effort because what happens on the other, if the US doesn't play, it affects everybody else, even if they're playing, right? So this is true for infectious diseases too. And this is something when I teach infectious disease epidemiology, I think a lot of students find it hard to get their mind around, is that if someone has an infectious disease, you are at risk. It's transmittable. And that's what's difficult about it. It's not like, oh, if you have heart disease, I'm not at risk, right? Like, being close to you doesn't change my risk. But if it's an infectious disease, it does, or even distantly. And microbes travel around the world. And so an antibiotic-resistant strain that catches off anywhere in the world puts all of us at risk of getting perhaps an extremely resistant antibiotic infection that could kill us or revolve in, surgical intervention or so forth. And it's hard to wrap your head around it, but it is a truth. So in today's symposium, we're going to learn around microbiome connectivity and adaptation to climate change. And just like at the macro level, climate change, of course, is affecting the microbial world. And we depend on the microbial world on all different levels to form soils, filter water, regulate biochemical cycles, essential for food production, preservation, and we have commensals in and on our bodies that we depend on for our health, as do all animals on Earth. So that's my little parable for today, but a few housekeeping things before we move on. There's meals and snacks, as I bet. They're going to be in that room that you came in, and on the other side, there's round tables in the hussy room for lunch. We also are streaming this in case you decide you still want to listen, but you need a break from being in these chairs, which I can certainly understand. Then the thank yous. We have many student volunteers who really help with this effort, helping with the name tags and all those things. So please, if you see them, thank them, Renisha, Alex, Riley, Jessica, Nidhi, Adria, and Morgan. So thank you all. And Morgan's really been our audio-visual expert, so extra shout out to her. And to Anna Cronenwelt. Anna's probably not even here, but Anna, you probably can hear it in the other room. Thank you, Anna, because without Anna, this thing doesn't run. She's done everything from the sending out the notices, planning the flyers, making all the arrangements for the travel, everything, and the food, and troubleshooting when, like, they don't bring plates. So things like that. So thanks so much, Anna. And then the funders for this, this symposium is funded also by the money from our training grant, which from Boroughs Welcome. And then we also have MAC-EPID funds, and then the Department of Epidemiology has graciously allowed me to use the Goodkins Lectureship Fund to fund symposia series. And please save the date. We have a next symposia series. In this series for this year, it's Climate Change and Health from Macro to Micro to Macro. Our keynote speaker is Howie Frumkin, who's a longtime climate change speaker, and we have a couple other speakers too already set. You can look on our website, so please keep it in your mind. And if you want to stream it from where you are or come, we would love to have our invited speakers to come. And thanks all your speakers for coming. And I want to, with that, first invite Renisha to introduce our speakers. And Morgan is going to do her duties here.